our special guest tonight, the one and the only Mr. Dennis Lillee.
The last ball of the day.
He's bowled him! He's bowled him! The last ball of the day! It's out, yes, that's it. Talks at second slip, takes the catch, and the great Dennis Lillee departs.
Wonderful to have you here, Mr. Lillee. How are you, mate?
My dad's Mr. Lillee, I'm Dennis.
How you going?
Yeah, good. Sort of, people always say I look well for 90, so yeah, I'm going well. Yeah, about right.
Let's go back to before you exploded on everyone's radar, but because fast bowlers are an interesting breed. Mitch Starc was a wicket keeper until he got too tall and they said you might want to think about bowling. Turned out to be quite a handy fast bowler. Michael Bevan was a tearaway quick in Canberra growing up, injured his back, concentrated more on his back. Were you always, from the youngest of age, were you just a fast bowler?
Well, I always thought I was. I always opened the bowling at primary school, so I suppose I was, but I also batted number 3, Greg. The Chapels never gave me a chance to bat where I should have been. But yeah, I had the best averages and everything. I didn't have much in the bowling, but the batting definitely. So yeah, I feel like I've been underdone by Ian and Greg, but I'll get over it.
In primary school, I can remember in under 10s in our local cricket comp, there was a guy called Nigel Dornan, and for me as a 10-year-old...
Nigel Dornan?
Nigel Dornan.
You don't know him.
He was, to me, terrifying to face. There must have been other primary school kids mortified at the thought of facing you. At what age were you bowling quick enough that it really started to worry people?
Well, you always thought you bowled quick when you were a fast bowler, and I suppose opening for your school, you must have been fairly quick or fairly accurate, or well, I wasn't accurate, but fairly sort of, I suppose, good at what you did. But I don't think I was ever the best. I think I was probably the best around our school, but we didn't have much many other teams in the competition. So it's hard to judge, and you didn't really think that much about it. All you were just going out there and playing a game and enjoying it. I mean, I played footy as well, athletics, swimming. I just liked participating in sport.
You explode on the national scene at the state level, then start playing some rep games. You make your test debut against England on my second birthday in December 1971, and then in January, and then in December of 71, you single-handedly destroyed the World 11 side in your second test of that series in Perth. Ian Chappell said that was the match that you came of age. You took 8 for 29 in 7.1 overs in the first innings. But it's one of the great spells by any Australian fast bowler ever. The magic bit almost never happened, yeah?
No, I still remember this clearly. You're only, I think it was the second, third game or something. I think I had played against England for 1 or 2 tests the year before, if I've got it right. Greg, is that right? Yeah, and then I think we played, I think it was the first one in Perth. And, I was as nervous as hell. In the morning, you get up and, all you can think about is, having to bowl against these great batsmen from the World 11, names that were, a lot of them, were growing up, they were your heroes. And so that was sort of foremost on my mind in the morning. And so the stupid thing I did, I always, in the mornings before I played, I had a row of what they call fighter Brits. And a row, I think, is 12 of them. And I had the normal 12 with a lot of milk and threw them all down and got to the ground. I wasn't feeling great, but you're not going to say anything. Anyway, I think I bowled a couple of overs, and then I said to Ian, mate, I don't think I can bowl anymore. I'm not feeling too well. I said, it's all coming up, I just feel crook. And he said, oh, well, look, just give me one more over. I think this is how it went. Just give me one more over. I said, oh, yeah, I'll try. And I think that next over I got a couple of wickets and then he couldn't get the ball off me then, no chance. Even if I was feeling, the Wheaties went down pretty quick.
Yeah, they did. 8 for 29, including Sonny Gavaskar, Farouk Engineer, Tony Gregg, Sir Garfield Sobers, and the final one of the innings, a young kid called Clive Lloyd. That's a pretty solid day at the office. Is that the moment you felt you belonged on the international scene?
Yeah, you're never convinced, but I think, look, let's be honest here. The wicket was bloody fast. It was the whacker. It was fast.
I was watching the footage last night. I was shitting myself. It was terrifying what you were doing there.
Yeah, well, it all went well, as I said, after the first couple of Weet-Bix settled down. I think once I'd got those wickets, I felt that I was there, and that's not being smart because it was only my third sort of game or something for Australia, but I felt that I fitted in, whereas before that I really didn't feel. I thought, people will forget, but I was about the 7th bowler that was tried against England in that first series, 70-71, when Greg debuted. I think it was the 7th bowler to open the bowling for Australia. It doesn't make you feel that confident, when you get the team, you're like down the list by a long way. So, it was just after that when I got wickets against those very good players that, I thought, I didn't think I'd made it, but I think I feel part of this team.
Garfield Sobers is walking out to bat. As he walks past Rod Marsh and the slips, he says, "Why are you all so far back here?" Rod Marsh says, "Don't worry, mate, you're about to find out." Is it true you were once bowling so fast someone refused to come out to face you?
Yes, I won't mention the bloke's name. I'm sure Greg remembers him, but it was a Shield game. This might give it away. I've got to say it, a Shield game against Victoria. And I can't remember now. I just remember bowling pretty bloody quick at the MCG, and we had them 9 for 44, and I had quite a haul of those. And anyway, we're waiting for the number 11 to come out. Didn't front. Weak bastard. Anyway, I told him when we were all having a drink in the dressing room later, I said to him, Perth's the next game, don't you? And I said, I'm going to get you, you weak bugger. Anyway, and then, you have a laugh and whatever. Anyway, we get to Perth, and I've had a pretty good game again, and we've got them pretty well on the run. And out comes this guy, and I'd got a few wickets, and I was in the middle of an over. And he walks out, and I walked by him as he came out and went to the non-striker's end, obviously. I said to him, "This is it, mate." I said, "This is payback, you're gone." And there's no getting away from it. Anyway, I walked back. As I ran in to bowl, I was about 3 paces from bowling, and I see this bloke starting to run. And he just kept running, and he ran to the pavilion. So I never got the prick. Very disappointing.
Things are flying for you in the early 70s. 31 wickets at 17 and a bit in the 72 Ashes tour, but then catastrophic injury, and many people think at that period in the early 70s it's all over. We saw a bit of the footage there. First of all, even the science at the time would have been, with the greatest of respect, primitive to what we have in terms of injury management now. Was there a point there where you thought, or were the experts saying, yeah, sorry, it's just not going to happen again?
Well, if we go back a bit, we were in the West Indies, and I was trying to bowl, and every time I'd try to bowl, I'd pull up with spasms and pain in my back. And, I just couldn't bowl. And so this sort of happened a few times. There's all the islands there, and I went to a couple of orthopods and they jabbed me with these horse needles and said, leave it a couple of days and then bowl, and, it would happen again and again. And so in the end, I just couldn't bowl. And, to Ian's credit, he allowed me to stay on in the tour. And it was interesting because it was only the action of bowling, which now we know why it is. We didn't know then, we knew nothing about it. I could run, I could swim. So they, a lot of them probably thought, he's pulling the wool. It was hard, but of course, knowing what was going on and me still trying my hardest to get ready, it was pretty daunting, but that was sort of the scenario. Then we went to a couple of other islands, and then a guy called Dr. Rudy Webster, who was a radiologist and was a fast bowler, I think, for one of the islands and in England for one of the county sides. And he said, I want to take an X-rays of you. In those days, there was no MRI, so it was X-rays. And he wanted to take X-rays. He said, Dennis, I think, he went through the symptoms. He said, I think you've got what I had. And anyway, so he took the X-rays, and it discovered 3 stress fractures. So one was on level 3 and 2 on, I think, 2 on one level and 1 on the other. So 3 and 4. And so that was sort of the diagnosis, and then I go back home, and because this is all new and no one had stress fractures except this guy before, they didn't know what to do. And what's more, the orthopod I went to, when he got X-rays taken, they couldn't see it. So, I'm going through all this stuff. Anyway, finally he gets it, and he says, now I can operate, but I've never operated on anyone with these before because they're unknown. And I thought, oh yeah, that's not an option. He said, I can put you in plaster for 6 or 7 weeks, like a full plaster from under here, just above the fruit and veg. So, it was pretty daunting. By the way, our first child was born with that armour on, so not too bad. And then I was in a brace, a specially made brace after that, which restricted me from doing almost anything. I wasn't allowed to wash the car. I mean, that was great.
Clearly not almost anything
that bad.
from the other fact you've just disclosed, but...
Well, yeah. So I couldn't do anything for about another 3-4 months. And then it was a gradual process of working under Dr. Frank Pike and university, and we finally built everything. And I think it took 18 months or something before I got back.
Because with fast bowlers today, they're much more mindful of that, and you'll often hear at the beginning of a series already, this person will not play in the 3rd test or whatever, and sometimes fans and media will push back at that and go, why would you rest that guy? It just took 5 weeks. They never rested Dennis Lillee. They used to bowl through. But at the same time, Dennis Lillee had a debilitating back injury that almost ended his career. Have we got it right?
Have you seen the way I've been walking recently? proves it's pretty hard.
Have we got it right with management and resting players these days, or have they got a little bit cotton woolly about it?
It's a good question, and I'm pretty hot on this one. I think they under-bowl, actually. I think we set up years ago, when I was doing for Pace Australia, around Australia, we set up a thing for junior cricketers who were getting injuries and stuff. For junior cricketers to bowl a certain number of overs at practice or in a game. And that was what it was about. It morphed into, I saw it start to happen at state cricket in the state squads, at club sides and all that sort of stuff, where everyone was bowling a limited number. Now, how could a tennis player get any good if he hit 30 balls? How can a fast bowler condition his body, apart from all the other hard physical work to get his body right and his wind right? How can you be good at what you do if you bowl very few balls? Now, it's just a thought I have, and I think I'd like to see it put into action and tried. There was a stupid thing, I think, for WA where the fast bowler played, I think, one game and bowled really well and everything, and then he had to, I think, miss the next game, which was the one that WA had to win. He was the spearhead to get into the final, and he didn't play, and they didn't get in. I'm very biased, aren't I? But no, so, you know, I think it can be done better. That's all I'll say.
You then team up with the amazing, you and Jeff Thomson, just a ferocious combination. I was again watching and researching this the other day, 1974-75 Ashes in Australia, watching the Poms batting without helmets in Perth, you bowling brutal bouncers, Tomo with the sand shoe crushers, just terrifying to watch. How much of that was tactical, planned, you guys would chat, let's do it this way? How much, especially Tomo, was just running in and letting it rip and see what happens?
Yeah, you couldn't. I don't think you'd sort of try and. Greg was his captain. You don't think you'd try and tell Tomo much about a plan. I think Tomo was just a natural, and he just ran in and bowled bloody quick. It's interesting. He's the only bowler, fast bowler, in the world that I never bowled a bouncer at. And there was a good reason for that. And then in the last game, Greg was captain and I was captain of WA. And I don't know who started it, but one of us bowled a bounce to the other. And then I copped a few as well. I don't know whether I started or he did, but I copped a few. And I thought, geez, you're a smart man, Dennis. You didn't start this 14 years ago. Well done.
The other great partnership, of course, Court Marsh bowled Lillee.
Yeah.
95 times in Test cricket. Yeah, it was just the standard thing. When you hear that phrase, Court Marsh bowled Lillee, what pops into your head? What does that represent?
Well, I reckon, yes, good. I reckon he stole a lot of catches off Ian and Greg Chappell. There you go. And I told him that before he passed away. He's a cheat. No, look, I can't remember him missing a catch, but obviously he did. You just knew if you got a nick. He knew what I was trying to do to the batsman. He knew where to move. He was just a fabulous keeper. Going back to Tomo, I didn't mean to be short on Tomo. Tomo was just the most amazing bloke to bowl the other end to. I often, I think with Greg, I'd go up to him and say, look, I want to field at short leg while Tomo's bowling. Why do you want to field at short leg when Tomo's bowling? I want to see how scared the batsman is when he's facing him. And that was before helmets, and geez, it was good fun.
If it hadn't been Tomo, if you could have opened the bowling with any opposition fast bowler of your era, is there anyone you would have loved to have shared the new rock with?
Gee, that's an interesting question. There's a few probably. Andy Roberts, John Snow, probably Big Bird, Garner. Look, I'll probably miss a few, but yeah, they were guys that I really respected.
What was it about Andy Roberts? Because Andy Roberts plays at the same time as your Holdings and your Garner, but a lot of people go, it was Andy Roberts was just a different beast altogether. What was it about Andy Roberts?
I guess you guys would have seen the South African guy, what's his name, open the bowling. He's finished now, Steyn?
Yep.
I think Andy was sort of the guy that could have these change-ups and, you know, just manipulate his action and manipulate his length and manipulate the pace and the cut and everything. And Andy was like that, I don't know, 15, 20 years or whatever before. Andy, you know, you should ask Greg that question. Andy, I thought, was really probably the complete bowler. He had the best bouncer. I think he bowled one to Ian one time. I think Ian tells me he bowled one to him, and Ian tried to hook him and didn't even look like it. And Andy kept trying to him, and they had a couple of drinks. I don't think Andy drank. He might have full strength Coca-Cola, but they had a chat about it. And Andy said, "Ian, I bowled you one bouncer, and I bowled you many after that. Why do you not try to hook me?" He said, "You think I'm fucking stupid?" Because Andy he had two bouncers. So the first one was a slower one, but in a good spot. And if you went for the next one, it was yards quicker. and in the right spot. So, yeah, Andy was great. And Snowy was amazing. Snowy, at the end of a series, I think it was 75 in England, the last test was at the Oval, and I grabbed him at the end of it and sat down with him. I just said how much I admired his bowling, and I said, I just want to steal something from you. And, he didn't go for his wallet, but he said, what's that? I said, your leg cutter, please, can you show me how to bowl that? He said, grab me an old ball. And I grabbed an old ball and went up, and he showed me exactly what to do and how to pull it down and where to aim it and all that sort of stuff. And he just bowled it at will. It took me about 4 years in the nets to get it right.
Yeah.
But when I got it right, it was a great weapon for me. So, I respect him not only as a bowler, but also giving back.
Next big game after that, the Centenary Test. What an amazing 1977 Test match that was. Starts beautifully with you asking the Queen for her autograph as she comes out to meet the players. She declines.
I've still got her autograph.
You have?
She didn't send it to me. She's got a few people to do that for her, but she, at the end, sent a photograph of me asking for it and signed Elizabeth II.
Oh.
And that's one of the only cricket photos that I've got up in the house. So I'm a bit of a royalist. So, Jesus, hang on. So that was important to me. To me, they're our roots, and my history goes. I never told the Poms this, but my history is very close. Grandparents on each side back to England. So yeah, I guess that's why I hated them so much.
Yeah. I think you qualify, and they could still well ask you to bowl for them when they come out here next year. Let's be honest. We've got a tiny bit of footage from the Centenary Test. Just roll it up there. You take 6 for 26.
And a chance is
That's
out.
them done in the first innings. 95 following on for our 138.
All out 95. Lever caught Marshbell Lillee for 11. Lillee 6
And then in the second innings,
one of the greatest performances of his career.
You've got 4 wickets. Come in and bowl to Alan Knott.
And that's it. It's LBW. Alan Knott.
And Australia
is out.
win the
Lillee
Centenary
struck
Test.
Again to finish off this Test match. England all out for 417. Another great performance there by Lillee to see the end of England. And Australia
What a game
triumphing
of
by a
cricket.
margin of 45 runs.
The thing about that was that the Queen and her entourage came down to the ground that day, and that's where we met her. And we were struggling against, to try and get wickets. But I just waited till the Queen had left because I didn't want to embarrass her, and then I just took a couple of wickets.
There you go.
Believe that, you'll believe anything.
Here's something I'd love to get your thoughts on. I was looking at the scorecard from the Centenary Test. There's over 1,100 runs scored in the Test, 138, 95, then 2 big second inning scores. Rod Marsh gets his 100, Derek Randall 174. Trivia question, how many sixes were hit in the Centenary Test? 0, right? Today, if I accidentally ducked under one of your bounces and got the handle of the bat on it, it would go 30 rows back for 6. This super bat era we live in now, do you sometimes as a fast bowler look at it and go, it's a bit ridiculous? A batsman getting rewarded for shots and edges and missed times now that in your day would have just been snaffled by someone at cover as it just doled up?
Well, I'll go back to what I said before. If I'd had a bat like that and the Chappells were kinder to me, I could have done all that stuff with a bat, let alone the ball. No. Look, everything evolves. Everything generally gets better. Bats were the same for, 100 years or whatever, and all of a sudden, like golf clubs and tennis rackets and everything, that they improve. I just wish someone would bloody advocate for bowlers and change that bloody ball. Get it a bit smaller or give it a bit more bounce or shine stay on longer. What happened to poor bowlers? We get nothing.
You were lucky enough to play, of course, in the Centenary Test with probably Australia's greatest ever leg spinner, Kerry O'Keefe. Did you ever watch Warne bowling and think, wow, I wonder what it would have been like? Because the McGrath-Warne partnership was fascinating, often bowling at the same time. Do you ever think about what it would have been like to roll the arm over with SK Warne at the other end?
Not really, but I remember I used to watch him, and it was the only other, time that I watched. I didn't watch much cricket. It was the only time that when I watched cricket that the hairs on the back of my, not head, but on the back of my neck stood up, and that's true. I felt so excited about watching him bowl because every ball he was trying to get a wicket, and that's phenomenal. Obviously I would have loved, but he might have taken a few of my wickets, the bugger, so no.
We roll out of the Centenary Test, and then, of course, the Australian Test team lose your services to World Series cricket. In a couple of seconds, we're going to play the iconic ad that I think everyone in my generation just has burned into their mind. In doing so, can I just note, as you watch the footage here on the screen, I'm not sure what David Hooks is doing. He looks very intense while he's doing it. Turn your head. This is one of the most famous ads in Australian history. Roll the WSC ad.
Been training all the winter, and there's not a team that's fitter, and that's the way it's got to be. 'Cause you're up against the best, This is super test, and you've got to beat the
If you
best
know the
of what
words,
is
feel
seen.
free to sing along.
Lily's pounding down like a machine. Pascoe's making divots in the green. Marsh is taking wickets. Hooks, he's clearing pickets. And the Chapel's eyes
Could have done it.
that killer gleam. Mr. Walker's playing havoc with the bats. Redpath, it's good to see you back. Lady's making runs. Dougie's chewing gum. And Gilmore's wielding willow like an axe. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on.
The good old days when you could just run on the field at the end and scruff people on the head. Like, at its height, it was amazing. It was also very controversial. Was it a bit scary or risky at the time, making the jump?
Well, we were basically outcasts, from cricket, clubs, anything to do with cricket, and even a lot of people in the street, just sort of turned the other way. I'll never forget this. Just after it started, I was in a store with Helen, my wife, and we're walking along, and I see 30 metres away the guy who was my wicketkeeper at the club at Perth Cricket Club. I was captain and coach there. And I walked towards him and said, "Hello, Wal," and he just ducked his head like that and made out he was doing something else. And I walked up to him and said, "Oh, Wal, it's Dennis, how you going?" He sort of wouldn't engage, and I asked him a couple of questions about what he was doing. He asked me nothing and then walked off. So that was the sort of thing that we were up against. We couldn't practice anywhere that was anything to do with turf wickets or anything like that. I mean, it was just, we just went to, places that were sort of parks and gardens and sort of, did it there, tried to sort of get ready for playing against the world's best players. It wasn't exactly great training. But, I think most would agree that it was needed. There was a lot of pain in getting there for us guys, and, we sort of, I suppose, we were outcast, as I say, for a while. But in the end, when it all got back together again, I think that people realised that what we were doing was not selfish, but it was actually to try and bring cricket and cricket payments. And the fact we were playing a lot more cricket, so we couldn't hold down jobs, it brought it sort of into the focus of people that out there, and they realised that this was going to be the start of professional cricket, and I guess it was. Every young professional today, I think, should at some stage take a little bit of time out and think just about Kerry Packer, because I promise you, without him, that stubborn bugger, Kerry Packer, it would never have happened.
December 1979, normal service resumes, but as was always your way, you brought a little bit of spice and a little bit of action. Just roll the tape.
On a ground where he produced so many great performances with the ball, Dennis Lillee in December of 1979 produced one of his worst with the bat.
Lillee as violently.
That's still a world record for the longest throw with an aluminium bat, Matt. And it'll stay.
He was using the bat of the future.
The aluminium cricket bat.
I believe that bat is now in the MCG Museum. You can see it there. Well, in fact,
I've heard,
here we go.
I've heard it's in about 3 or 4 different places.
That's it.
No, it hasn't got enough red marks on it, mate. The original bat, as far as
the Dennis
I'm
Lillee
concerned,
Combats, patent still pending?
it'll never be realised. But what I remember was I got it signed by both teams at the end, and it ends up in Mike Brealey's son's hands. Now, I don't know how that happened, but that's what I'm told by Mike Brealey himself. So that's apparently the original one. But there's one, the MCG. My son's got one behind the door, which he claims is it. I don't know.
I do know, as a journalist, you always have to, something that's such an emotional topic as yourself, you have to always get a second opinion. Greg, can you come up here for a second? Because Greg was there on the day. I want to see the captain's eye view of what he recalls of this iconic.
Here we go.
I'd heard about the combat. I hadn't seen it. We were batting, as you saw in the test match against England. We wanted to set them a target in the second innings. I didn't want to declare overnight. Dennis was not out overnight. We'd come off for rain or bad light the night before. There were 2 or 3 balls left in an over. Dennis was at the non-strikers end. The next morning I was in the nets just bowling to our tail enders to get them ready for batting. Dennis came out. He didn't often come to batting practice.
Didn't need to. Sheer natural talent.
I only wish I knew then what he told me tonight. But anyway, Dennis comes out to bat in the nets, arrives fully kitted out, pads, gloves, and an aluminium bat. And I thought, I've got a problem. Because I know that he wants to take that out in the middle. In an hour or so, I want him to lead our attack to bowl out England. I don't need to have a fight with the strongest willed person I've ever met. So I think to myself, well, what's the worst that can happen? He's at the non-striker's end. There's 3 balls, I think there was, in the over left. The worst that can happen is he can face 2 balls. He wants to get this thing on national television and let Richie Benno and Ian Chappell and Tony Gregg talk about it. I thought it'd probably be a lot easier just to let him go. So I'm bowling and Dennis is batting, and all I can hear is clunk, clunk, clunk. Dennis finishes his knock and he comes out of the nets, and I know he wants to talk to me. And I know he wants me to say something. So I ignored him. And he stood right at the end of my bowling mark, and I bowled another couple of balls and came back and just walked straight past him and bowled again. And he finally walks in front of me and he said, "Are you going to have a bat today?" And I said, "Mate, I'm out. Our batting's finished. There's no point in me having a bat in the nets. Why do you ask?" He said, "I thought you might like to have a hit with this." And I said, "Mate, I don't need to have a hit with it. I've heard it." So Dennis goes off. We finished in the nets and I came in. Rodney Hogg was our 12th man. I went up to Hoggy and I said, "Mate, Dennis is going to take this thing out to bat today. I'm going to let him go and take it out, but there's only 3 balls to go. At the end of this over, you must take out his willow bat and bring that bloody thing back." I was stupid. I went about getting ready to go out and field later on. At the end of the over, something told me that things weren't right. I look around and there's Hoggy still in the dressing room. And I said something along the lines of, "Jesus, Hoggy, what are you still doing here?" And he said, mate, I couldn't go out there. All I could imagine is that he was going to hit me over the head with this bat in front of all these people and millions on television. And I said, well, you weak prick. At the end of the next over, you're going to go out and bring that bloody thing back because that's going to cost us runs. And he didn't. He did stroke one through the covers next over that with even the worst willow bat of that era would have gone for 4. It trickled through the covers and he got 2 for it. So I said, Hoggy, you owe us 2 runs already. So to his credit, and with a little bit of an assistance, he went out the next over with Dennis's willow bat. And Dennis, and I'll never understand why, and I've never asked you, and maybe you could tell us tonight, Hoggy got out there with his willow bat and Dennis said, that's the wrong one. Why he'd have 2 willow bats? He couldn't use one properly, and apparently he's got 2. So rather than try and explain to Hoggy where he might find the other willow bat, Dennis came off and came into the dressing room, walked up to the back corner where his kit was, picked up the other willow bat, and he was ready to go back on the ground when Rodney William Marsh, who was sitting just near him in the corner, said to him, you're not going to let the umpires tell you what to do, are you? And with that, Dennis turned around. You can see his eyes light up. He put his willow bat down and he picked this bloody thing up and he went out the door.
And the rest is history.
And I said to Rodney William Marsh, thank you very much. That was very helpful.
Greg Chappell, ladies and gentlemen. Ha ha!
What was forgotten to be said there was a few things, but firstly, the aluminium bat was legal. Okay, so why wouldn't I use it? Other bat manufacturers, what do they do when they've got a different bat with, you know, holes in the back or a scoop or whatever? They use it on television so that it can be exposed and so they can sell some. Okay. So that was the other thing. Yeah, I thought we've got to sell some of these things. And what he also forgot to say was the ball was apparently damaged when it hit the fence or the gutter at the whacker. That means I hit a 4. Are you with me, you guys? Yeah. Okay. So it was very effective. And that one that it hit for 2, it was just caressed it through the covers just so I could stay on strike, you know. So anyway, there it is. Look, it wasn't very nice, the end result, but I was within my rights, I thought, and, you know, would I do it again now? No, because I'm 74.
But the final match I want to focus in on here, and it's one of the great Australian cricketing moments, a defining moment of my childhood. I'm 12 when this happens. I can remember it like it was yesterday. We play the West Indies, the MCG. It's the same match in which Greg takes a catch off Larry Gomes to give you the world test record. You go past Lance Gibbs' 390th, 310th test wicket. You end up with 7 for 83 in the first innings, 10 wickets for the match. But the first day, Australia bat, the West Indies are good. Kim Hughes, 100 not out. You were there. People say one of the great innings.
One of the greatest innings against that attack on the wicket that was, well, Greg copped one that just popped up. I think it was that game, snotted you in the nose, straight under here. Came from a length. And Kim Hughes danced down the track to them and cut them and pulled them and hooked them in one of the great displays on the wicket that was playing up.
100 not out of a total score of 198 against Holding, Roberts, Garner, Croft, right? And then the Windies come out to bat. There's not long to go in the day, and it's just one of the most magic few overs in Australian cricket history as far as I'm concerned. Roll the tape on it. Desmond Haynes up first.
And he's nicked it, he's got him! Warner's got him, what a great...
You've got to respect, Desmond wasn't exactly just trying to play it out to the stumps, was he? He's got an absolute gone, Desmond Haynes. Not exactly looking for the end of the day's play.
Wasn't that great at all either.
Colin Croft, about to be as LBW as anyone's ever been in the history of cricket.
Into the night watchman, Croft. It's hit him on the pad.
Later, Crofty.
He's given him out, he's gone. Out LBW. Lillee's got another one. Well, the Australians are alive. The night watchman craft out. LBW, bowled Lillee.
Pause the video there, thanks, mate. Okay, now we see a gentleman there at the bowler's end just turning away and tapping his bat back. Sir Isaac Vivian Alexander Richards. You bowled to Viv a bit in your time. What was it like bowling to the great Viv Richards?
Oh, good. I mean, I enjoyed it. Because he was such an attacking player, he gave you a chance. So he was out to get you from the start. I was out to get him, obviously, and other bowlers were out to get him. But he would play some very risky shots, generally in his first 10 or 15 runs. The problem was, if he got to 20, just let him get 100, I mean, he's going to get one anyway. But, he was that sort of player that, once he got going, there was almost no stopping him. It was great to bowl to him. It was a challenge. I enjoyed bowling to him. I got him a few times and he got me a lot of times. So,
You're given the last over of the day. Let's watch the last 3 balls of that day's play.
Stumps.
What a session. What a crowd and what a performance.
The crowd are absolutely loving it. The score 3 down for 10. The Australians were 3 for 8. So things taking a similar pattern at the moment. Lillee, that's a bouncer and a huge appeal there by Dennis Lillee. The hands all went up behind the stumps, but I don't think Viv Richards will let close to that one.
He was tested and he went after the fast bowl and it wasn't
He's
far from
having
his
a go.
glove.
Yeah, I always fancied bouncing Viv.
Let's have another one then.
Lillee steaming in. Viv Richards hooks again and once again the hands behind the stumps all go up in the air. And
It's where you put the
once again,
bouncer,
Viv
I think,
Richards
that counts,
fails to
and
make
each
contact.
batsman's different, so you work that
Has
out.
to be nerves. There's no value in this shot now. With 2 balls remaining. He's never really got his eye on that one. He's ducked under it and look how close to the stumps Dennis Lillee is, not giving him any angle to go down the weak
Last
side. It's
ball
right
of the
over
day.
top of off stump.
MCG.
Middle stump to off stump.
Pushing off
Perfect
the back
bouncer.
fence.
well, the atmosphere electric and Lillee in to bowl the last ball of the day. He's bowled him! He's bowled him! The last ball of the day. Lillee getting one to nip back, finding the inside edge and bowling out Viv Richards. Well, what a magnificent start for Australia. The West Indies 4 down for 10 and the crowd absolutely ecstatic. Well, the great man doing it on the last ball of the day, getting rid of the real West Indian danger man.
You
What a
can't
magnificent
script
ball. Well
that.
pitched up, nip back.
You cannot
Viv
script that.
Richards,
Viv Richards bowled
bowling.
last ball of the day for the
What a
West Indies to be 4 for 10 at the
West
MCG.
Indies
I had to
6,
give Viv $100 to
4
play
down
that
for
on.
10 now in reply to the Australian score.
No, he played it. He went for the big shot,
We'll
which
be back
we
at
knew
the
he liked to
MCG at 11
go
tomorrow
for,
for what's going to
and
be
he got the inside edge,
days
and
play.
luckily it went
what about
a
that?
little bit of an off
4 for
cutter,
10.
so
Let's
he
see, who
caught
would
the
have
inside
thought it,
edge and
because,
onto the
no
stump.
one
So
would.
it could have
I
gone
suppose anyone
anywhere.
would have thought
Could
the
have gone down
Australians would have
leg
been out
side or
for
anything,
198.
yeah,
Dennis
we
Lillee,
got the result.
3 wickets in 12 balls.
That. Wonderful stuff, Dennis. Wonderful stuff. The greats like that, taking them on one, because you were the head guy. That was your job to take those guys. You relished the challenge, didn't you? The better the bat, the more you seemed to grow to the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I took too many tail end wickets. I don't think I took a lot, but I took a lot in that first 4 or 5 batsmen, and I think that was, I felt that as an opening bowler, Tomo or I, it was our job to try and knock that first 4 or 5 out, or not out, sorry, slip of the tongue there, but to pave the way to knock a side over, and so I really worked hard on that, and I enjoyed it if you had success. You didn't always, geez, I mean, so many times we chased lots of runs, and everyone forgets that. I don't, but so when you have some good success, it's great.
Jimmy Smith joked about it. I mentioned my mate at saying, did you realise at the time? You must reflect now and realise just how much you were part of the Australian sporting psyche at the time. Everyone tried to bowl like you. It was impossible to try and bowl like Tomo. Everyone tried to bowl like you. Everyone wanted to bat like Greg. Did you get that sense of just how much that golden age of Australian cricket had captured the hearts of fans around the country?
It's interesting. At the time, I don't think you do. I'm sure you don't. I think the team that eventuated from the Tour of England, particularly 72, where we came back to draw the series, and you know, some young blokes evolved, and I think that was the start of a very, very good era. I don't think we really believed in ourselves, and we thought we could win most games. We didn't, without sort of being smart about it, but we didn't sort of think there was anything different, except I guess we played. I mean, Ian Chappell, I think he was one of the guys that helped us go, do what we did, because he said if we bat first, basically we'll get 300 and odd runs in the day. I'll bat for a little bit the next day, and then with our attack, we can bowl the side out twice. So it's important to get runs quick, which they do now, but in the old days, back when the Ark was launched, just before I started, in the old days, it was not uncommon to see Australian and England teams crawl along at 2 and over.
3 for 170 at the end of an enthralling day's play.
Yeah, and I've talked to a few English players over the time, and they basically said our first aim is to not lose the match, not lose this match. Now, our first aim was to win this match, so we went about it different ways. And then the next was to, if you're in a position, and then if you can't, you've got to have a draw. Well, I think under Ian and then Greg after Ian, I think our thing was we go out there and we want to win the match. There's no draws, hopefully, but we want to win the match from the outset. To do that, you've got to score runs quick. And then it gives your bowlers the time to bowl the side out twice. And as the wicket gets better, midway through the 2 or 3 days, then, if you haven't got a few early wickets and got quick runs on the board, then that task becomes bloody difficult.
Well, I think that you won so many games that were formative in the cricket love of many people in the audience, and you've done so much for so many people. Just seeing you so generous with fans tonight. Someone gave me this little note. We'll wrap it up with this. Someone talks about a great memory, and they said, a letter addressed to me arrived at 26 Clark Street, Bendigo, in the month of my 12th birthday. Inside, in the same handwriting that was on the envelope, were 31 words I've been able to recite from memory for the last half century. Quote, Dear Peter, I am only too happy to give you my autograph. I hope you keep up your interest in cricket, as it has many rewards in life. Regards, Dennis Lillee. And the person who received this letter describes it as the D of Dennis Lillee was written with a rooster flourish, whose lines traced a suggestion of the man in the act of delivery. The autograph was all billowing white shirts and full throttle follow through. The person who you said, I hope you keep up your interest in cricket, as it has many rewards in life, Peter, is Peter Laylaw, the famous Australian sports journalist who counts as one of his most prized possessions. The autograph you gave to him. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and the only, our special guest this evening, Mr. Dennis Lillee.
I have to go, do I?